heading down the overseas highway, past the growing piles of downed trees, ice chests, broken furniture, toppled signs and other debris that have turned the scenic drive into a long winding landfill. Convoys of utility workers this week hurried toward the islands hardest hit by Hurricane Irma in a race to reconnect conks. Barely noticed among them was a crew of 6 surveyors from the U.S. Geological Survey, racing to get in front of the cleanup. Before homes and businesses are hosed down and aired out, and tedious rebuilding work begins, the crew needs to find and measure watermarks, the tiny traces of seaweed and sand that stick to walls, signposts and anything left erect. Those marks provide the real-life evidence hurricane forecasters need to construct the powerful computer models used to issue warnings and keep people safe from a hurricane's most lethal weapon, storm surge. In my 18 years here, I haven't seen a peak surge where it was measured by an instrument, said Jamie Rome, who heads the National Hurricane Center's storm surge team. You have to figure it out by surveying the damage. David Byers, a hydrologic technician with the U.S. Geological Society, walks along Constitution Avenue in Big Pine where he and team member Don Hampton found a high water mark hidden in the downstairs utility room of a house. The team is racing to document the marks and record storm surge levels before they are washed away in cleanup efforts. Emily Micott at MiamiHerald.com. In the days before Irma hit, forecasters warned the massive storm was capable of generating surges across the state, from tip to toe. The Keys were expected to get between 5 and 10 feet. The hurricane had already become one of the most powerful on record, with 185 miles per hour winds raging for 37 hours straight. When the storm curved west, tracking across the lower Keys and winding up the Gulf Coast, forecasters weren't far off. Irma's surge swept across the islands and up Biscayne Bay, inundating Miami Beach and downtown Miami. It dumped mud across Everglades City and other parts of southwest Florida. The St. Johns River, far to the north, rose to record-breaking heights and flooded parts of Jacksonville. Where winds blew offshore from the counterclockwise spinning storm, bays were sucked dry, a powerful indicator of how bad the surge could have been if the storm had landed further north. Buttonwood Bay and Key Largo and Tampa Bay briefly became beaches. As the storm roared, tidal gauges that record water levels year-round and 130 temporary USGS sensors set out just before the storm began tracked the rising waters. But in monsters like Irma, instruments are prone to fail, leaving gaps in the data. A gauge near Tavernier stopped transmitting before noon September 9. Of 500 gauges the USGS monitors in streams and rivers, 60 failed, said Richard Kane, Associate Director of the USGS's Tampa-based Caribbean Florida Water Science Center. In evacuation orders prevented crews from putting out sensors in the Keys, he said. It will be several months before the Hurricane Center issues its comprehensive post-storm report that incorporates all kinds of data, Rome said. But early measurements confirm the lower Keys and southwest Florida met projections and got hit hardest, he said. Hurricane Irma hammered Big Pine, sending a storm surge at least 3 feet above ground level across parts of the island. Mike Stocker, TNSA USGS sensor in Manatee Bay south of Homestead showed water peaking at 6 feet. Meaning the storm surge above ground level likely hit 4 feet, Kane said. Everglades City, a fishing village on the southwest coast, saw a peak of 8 feet, putting surges at about 4 to 5 feet, he said. Rome said the surge in Jacksonville rose between 3 and 5 feet. In Miami, seawalls kept the full volume of the surge from washing ashore. Flooding that turned Brickell Avenue into a river was more likely due to rain and waves topping the seawall, Rome said. Brickell has a hard time with flooding during a rainstorm, he said. So there were a lot of things going on in the Brickell area that complicated flooding. Don Hampton, a hydrologic technician with the U.S. Geological Society, is part of a field team tracking high water marks from Key West to Key Largo to get an accurate read of the surge since sensors often fail during a storm's peak or miss places. Emily Micott at MiamiHerald.com. For USGS hydrologic technicians Don Hampton and David Byers, finding the water marks was a little like a treasure hunt, if the treasure was a needle buried in a jumble of hurricane debris. Before dawn earlier this week, Hampton, who just returned from tracking Hurricane Harvey watermarks south of Houston, and Byers, who spent the days leading up to Irma staking out temporary sensors, left their Key Largo hotel for Big Pine. Their descent into destruction gave them a good preview of what was to come in Big Pine, and a hurricane's random kindness. In Isla Mirada,